Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyerboxingnews.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Let's talk about some stories in boxing taking place October 17th, 2012. First, unboxingscene.com, a great site. David Haye is quoted as encouraging Tyson Fury to continue to talk trash to his former sparring partner, David Price. You know, this is really not surprising. Understand, David Haye is old school. In one of the best episodes of trash talking I have ever seen, going back decades, David Haye showed up to the post-fight conference of Vitaly Klitschko and Derek Chisora holding a drink while talking trash to the heavyweight champion. Just think about that. Press conference, you're holding a drink. Why not tell the heavyweight champion that he's ducking you and that, when is he going to get serious and give you a chance to take his title? That's what David Haye did. We forget about the great performance because Derek Chisora then got involved and one thing led to another between Haye and Chisora. But understand, David Haye is really a master trash talker, right? This is the way boxing used to be. Guys talking a lot of trash about others. So him telling one fighter to continue to talk trash to another fighter is like Muhammad Ali telling two contenders to do the same thing in the 1970s. It's a non-story. David Haye is old school. It's just a boxing philosophy and approach to boxing. I don't think anyone should take it seriously. I don't think anyone should interpret it as David Haye telling Tyson Fury he can beat David Price. I don't think David Haye has made his opinion on that fight publicly known. Let's shift gears. There's talk about Brandon Rios fighting Manny Pacquiao. Should Pacquiao get by Juan Manuel Marquez? Now, let me just say, I still consider Brandon Rios to be a limited fighter. I don't know how you can look at the early rounds of his recent victory over Mike Alvarado, where Alvarado is throwing a jab. Sadly, Alvarado gets away from a successful game plan. But I don't know how you could look at those early rounds and reach any conclusion other than that Brandon Rios is limited and has a problem with a guy who can throw a jab. If you look at the CompuBox numbers, you'll see that Alvarado throws 3 times the jabs that Brandon Rios throws, right? Brandon Rios doesn't get off that many jabs during the fight, right? And quite frankly, I thought, and I know the judges disagree with me, but I thought Mike Alvarado was winning that fight at the time of the stoppage. In fact, let's talk about that stoppage. Now, let's remember, this is boxing. This is a sport where even when you get knocked to the canvas, you have 10 seconds to get up, right? This is that sport. So unless you're Audley Harrison and your life's in danger as you're unconscious leaning up on the ropes against David Price, I don't believe that the referee should step in and stop a fight where a fighter has his hands up, right? He's getting rocked. There's no question about it. But he hasn't even been down yet in the fight. 2 of the 3 judges have the fight at that moment a draw, right? In other words, neither guy has been overmatched until this 10-second sequence. I don't know why the referee, with Alvarado's hands up, yes, he's getting pummeled, but I don't know why the referee would step in at that point and stop the fight. Was there anyone here watching this video now who didn't expect heavy punches to be landed in that Rios Alvarado fight? You know, the fact that one guy is buzzed, right, and is in trouble, is that by itself enough of a reason to stop the fight? You know, let me just say, too, if Mike Alvarado, well, okay, whatever. If Mike Alvarado, an unbeaten fighter, and this is something you always have to worry about with unbeaten fighters, if Mike Alvarado knew how to clinch when he's hurt, in other words, if he had the wherewithal of Floyd Mayweather, another unbeaten fighter, after Mayweather got buzzed by Shane Mosley, if he had the wherewithal to just lean forward, grab Rios's right arm, or clinch him, right, that round would have been uneventful. It's only because Mike Alvarado was accustomed to being the dominator, not the dominated, that after he gets buzzed, he's holding his hands up and getting hit while he's up against the ropes instead of taking a step forward to grab Rios. Keep in mind, we're not talking about Ray Leonard or Ali in terms of foot speed and agility and talking about Brandon Rios. He's right in front of Mike Alvarado. Not only that, you knew Rios was not going to be throwing straight punches. You knew he was just throwing hooks. And so it's sad that Mike Alvarado wasn't able to clinch. This fight really is Exhibit A on the importance of knowing how to clinch when you're hurt. But even without the clinching, Alvarado has his hands up. And I thought referees were really only supposed to stop these fights when a guy drops his hands and looks completely defenseless. Here, Alvarado doesn't. He's getting roughed up. No, make no mistake. That last round, Rios is winning the round big. Make no mistake. But Alvarado hasn't even been knocked off of his feet. He's still conscious. He's still defending himself. Well, let me say this. You know, after watching Rios have, at a minimum, all kinds of problems with Mike Alvarado, why would anyone think that Brandon Rios would be able to deal with Manny Pacquiao? Isn't Pacquiao a different level? Let me just point out that, only two kinds of fighters in recent years have beaten Manny Pacquiao, right? In fact, really only one. You have to be able to come forward like Eric Morales did, like Timothy Bradley did, and I know that fight's controversial, but even if you think Pacquiao won that fight, at least concede that Bradley had his rounds. In fact, according to the judges, Bradley swept the later part of that fight, right? That wasn't a walkthrough for Manny Pacquiao. But the key is both Morales in their first fight and Timothy Bradley had a jab going, right? You have to keep Manny Pacquiao off of you. Don't be fooled by height. Manny Pacquiao's actually a big man. Look at his calves. He has big, thick legs. You get power from your legs. Shane Mosley, following his fight against Manny Pacquiao. And this is the same Shane Mosley who fought at 154 for many fights. Shane Mosley said he had never been hit that hard before in his life. I know image-wise, Brandon Rios is viewed as all fighter. But between Rios and Manny Pacquiao, I believe Manny Pacquiao has the harder punch. Now, when you combine that with the faster hands, and Manny Pacquiao's hands are much faster than Brandon Rios, and when you combine that with the faster feet, and when you consider the fact that Rios doesn't have the jab of Morales or Timothy Bradley, nor can Rios fight off his back foot and set traps like Juan Manuel Marquez. He's not going to have Manny Pacquiao walking into right hands and stuff like that. He's not going to set traps, right? You have to be able to know how to either jab or fight on your back foot to give Manny Pacquiao problems. You tell me, who has beaten Manny Pacquiao without a jab, who's trying to fight on his front foot? Who's that? I'll tell you what, in my opinion, it's not Brandon Rios. You throw in the fact that Pacquiao is hard to find in the ring. He moves well. He's also a southpaw. You have to be acclimated to fighting southpaws, right? The fact that Pacquiao moves well, has the faster hands, has the straighter punches, hasn't had a problem with brawler types, tells me that if Brandon Rios fights Manny Pacquiao, he gets exposed, right? So I'll concede Brandon Rios beat Mike Alvarado, right? Let me just say that I don't have him on my list of technicians. Okay, I thought he lost to Richard Abril. I think a fight against Manny Pacquiao ends with Manny Pacquiao's hands getting raised. I'll even go further. I think Manny Pacquiao would have a good chance at a stoppage since Pacquiao hits harder than Brandon Rios. I have no doubt Rios would show up hunting Manny Pacquiao. Understand, Rios' predictability, I think, would make him an easier opponent for Manny Pacquiao. Don't just look at Rios' willingness to fight and his aggression, right? Many men have fought Manny Pacquiao and have been willing, right? Miguel Cotto wasn't there running away from Manny Pacquiao early. He came after Manny Pacquiao, right? Many have. Antonio Margarito came after Manny Pacquiao, right? Pacquiao has dealt with aggressive guys before. In fact, Pacquiao has dealt with aggressive guys who are bigger than Brandon Rios. Just think Antonio Margarito, right? My point to you is simply, I'm not sure if Brandon Rios will be able to find Manny Pacquiao on fight night. Manny Pacquiao will be able to find Brandon Rios. Rios doesn't throw the kind of crisp, straight punches and doesn't have the kind of jab and can't fight off his back foot, the kind of strategy that would give Manny Pacquiao problems. I like Pacquiao against Rios if that fight ever happens. Let's talk about Adamek against Steve Cunningham. I know it's counterintuitive, but you show me a guy who's artificially keeping his weight low, right? You show me a guy who should be weighing 220, who has kept himself at 200 for too long a period of time. And I'll show you a guy with bad punch resistance, right? I don't know how it works fully, but I can tell you the guys who lose a lot of weight before fights, especially when you're in your 30s, you're at increased risk of serious injury. Well, let me just say, I believe that Steve Cunningham, who really lost his punch resistance, and it's shocking when you see Cunningham against Adamek, that fight where Cunningham hits the deck several times, or Cunningham against Johan Hernandez, the first fight, where Cunningham hits the deck in the first round, it's clear that when Cunningham gets hit right, he's out. It's not bad balance. This is a brain thing. He's out. He hits the canvas. He looks bad, right? And so I really do believe that this fight comes down to Cunningham's punch resistance. I wouldn't bet on this fight, right? I believe both of these guys are a bit past their primes. If you're a Adamek fan, you have got to be concerned by his performances post-Vitaly Klitschko. Doesn't look like the same fighter, right? And so my advice to gamblers on this one is to stay away. It's a must-see fight as a fan. As a gambler, you need to stay away because you just don't know who's going to show up. Cunningham, too, has the added risk of fighting in a new weight class. In other words, you don't even know how Cunningham is going to deal with being a heavyweight. In my opinion, if Cunningham doesn't have chin problems, if he's able to stand upright for the entire fight, he likely wins it, because Cunningham is actually a master boxer. What slows him down is his inability to take punches, right? And so it's a very weird fight. Also, Tomas Adamek, I'll just say, as a heavyweight, he's a different kind of fighter than he was as a light heavyweight and cruiser, right? As a heavy, he's really reliant on his legs. He dances around the ring. Well, all I can say is there's a reason why you don't have a lot of guys Tomas Adamek's age relying on their legs in the heavyweight division. It's because, quite frankly, you slow down. If you're going to dance around the ring, you really need coordination. These are the kind of things that start to go with age, right? And so I don't know who wins that fight. I have questions about both fighters. But let me just say, if Cunningham is an underdog, as I expect him to be, and if he gets to be a greater than 3-1 underdog, then I would entertain putting some long shot money on him. Because if the added weight helps his chin, and keep in mind, this is a guy who has sparred with people like Vladimir Klitschko. If the added weight helps his chin, then I believe if he can just stay on his feet, and that's a big if, he has a good shot of pulling the upset. Let me hear from you. Leave your comments for me here online. Visit us at gamblersadvisory.com and boxingscene.com. Let me just say, Brandon Rios has done a lot better than I thought he would. I'll concede that. You don't have to remind me that Rios remains unbeaten. Thanks for watching.